Hi, I'm Owen Feely, and I'm here just to give a quick presentation on are you working from home or are you living at work? Now, this topic was brought to me by plenty of the members of the Facebook group, and I think it's going to be very relevant to everyone that's living and dealing with the current world that we're living in. I think one of the first steps that we have to start with is I think everyone's routine and discipline came up to the surface level when COVID hit. The transfer from the environment at work and the space that we'll talk about in a second, and we just got thrown into the deep end at home. Now, this isn't going to be all about routine, but routine here is very important. And we've got to start thinking about what was our routine pre-COVID. So before we even enter the home and start going through what we're going to do with our space and environment and different tools and different tips, we have to reflect and reassess what part of our days went well before we even started work. So a lot of people might have had a different routine of having to get up, get the kids ready, have breakfast at home, then it was a big rush with a school drop, and then they're in the car alone. Some people might have just got up, walked to work. Some people might have got up, walked to the bus stop, got the bus to work, commuted with friends, or just travelled in the car alone. Now, we have to replicate what went well there, even to the point of when you got into work and sat at your desk or your point of contact. What did you do right before you started work that made it worthwhile and calmed you and leveled your head? Now, we just have to have a little mirror reflection of that. Now, I'm big on mirror reflections because everything replicates something everywhere. So let me use the example of if you drove to work by yourself and you stopped and got a coffee and you were one big rush and you had no routine and you were all over the place before you left home, that's fine. But that calming sense of just listening to the radio, a podcast, your favourite music and having that cup of coffee could have just settled your mind to prepare you for the day that was going to become. And that's something that we have to contend with now, is because just because our start time in work might be 8 o'clock, we're very tempted now to start a little later and finish later. But if our routine was to get up and have a commute by ourselves and that calmed us, well, then we have to replicate that now. So it could be a case of before you do anything, you sit at the kitchen table and you just enjoy a cup of coffee by yourself. Obviously, of course, it could just be going for a small walk, 20 minutes around your park or down the road. But that's something that you have to do for yourself. That there's no cookie tool to say this is what's going to work for you. We're just trying to replicate what was going well before. Now, while we're on the subject, I'm big on AM routines anyway. Every single morning we should know what we're doing. Even if it's different every morning, you should know what you're doing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. What time is your get-up time? What's your routine before? Because it prepares us. Are you getting up, you having a shower, brush your teeth and change your clothes? Did you do that before COVID? And that'll help your performance. But there's no reason why you shouldn't be doing it now. So if you get up and you either shower and eat, or you eat and shower, whatever it is, you find your routine and change your clothes, and that made you feel good about yourself and that made you feel professional, well, you should do that now. Now, some people say I'm working better in my shorts and my t-shirt or my pajamas. That goes to performance. You have to do whatever improves your performance. Stick with it. There's no one tool for all. What we're trying to do is bring to people's awareness to what was going well previously to what can work out now. Now, when we are dealing with the space, this is difficult, but you do have to find one and you do have to own it. Not everyone has the office at home. Not everyone is working for employers that they're giving money out for an office desk and an expensive office chair. But there's no reason whether we're living in a 1-bed apartment, a 4-bed house, living with friends, living with family, living with a partner, living with kids, you have to find a space and you have to own it. And you have to create a working space for you. Now, I have no problem with people changing their space, but I do have a problem with people changing their space on a daily basis. I go here in the morning, here in the evening, here the next week. Again, if you're dealing with performance and you're performing better, that's fine. If you're dealing with procrastination and you're struggling at the minute and your head's a bit of a fuzz and there's no differentiation between work and living at home, well, that's what we have to get the space for now. And there's nothing wrong with the space. Put a couple of touches around the place that replicates it. Did you have plants in the office, pictures of the family, poster, picture of a friend's holiday, whatever it is? Because at home, you're responsible for creating your own working environment. Often in a space quite unlike an office, because you could have a kitchen island here, the kids over there and another partner over here, or you could have roommates over here. So now you're responsible. You can't go to a HR department, you can't go to your boss and say, I need to change this. So you have to own that. And creating that space, you always have to make sure that you maintain your mental health and physical health. And we're going to be talking about that in a second, but I do encourage putting a few touches around the place. when we're dealing with procrastination, and productivity is an issue here. So I have something of a thumb rule of 15:45 or 20:40. We find the space in 60 minutes for yourself. When you're struggling with procrastination, set the time clock that you're literally going to start work at 8 o'clock. You know you're dealing with procrastination, you're dealing with distractions. Do something for 15 minutes and walk away for 45 minutes. Then you do that again on the hour, but you pick when you do it. You could do it for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. This is just the start to. Now I know managers and bosses and employers will start screaming straight away saying we can't do that, or employees are afraid to do that. But if you're underperforming now and you know you're underperforming and you've got a block, we're just trying to start the engine. So if at 8 o'clock you work 15 minutes and you've no distractions and you go hell for leather, brilliant, and you step back for 45 minutes, but then you're itching to get back going at 9 o'clock, and then we're hoping to encourage by 10 and 11 o'clock, you're on a roll. Now, this is when we're dealing with the big procrastination. This is dealing with regular short breaks, but dealing back with the routine where the people kind of found it easier to transfer from work life environment to home life environment is a lot of the time these people know their get up time, know their routine in the morning, know what they do, know what they're wearing, know what time their morning coffee break is, their big break, their lunch break is, their evening coffee break and their finish time, and what they're doing in the evening. Now we understand the world now has come into not everyone can match up at meetings, so now we have to have meetings later in the day. But that's where we have to start blocking out times. So if you know you have a meeting that you have to do at 6 o'clock, well, you need to block out a different time during the day, because if you're usually finished at 5 o'clock, you need to refresh it. So you need to minimum say to yourself, when am I having my morning break? When am I having my lunchtime break? When am I having my evening coffee? Because this calms us and this calms our anxiety. This routine, when we've so much going on in our head and we're thinking so much, knowing just when our lunch break is and our dinner time is, it relaxes us a small bit. And again, we have to identify and call a spade about times when we know we're unproductive. There's a certain time of the day that we know we're unproductive, just write it off. And then when things are calmer in the evening, when you know the kids might be put to bed or you've done X, Y, or Z in your own personal life, well, then there's no problem going back to a computer. But we're scheduling. We know when we're doing everything. Regular short breaks can help us keep energized and focused. It can also rest your eyes away from the continuous screen time that we're all getting overloaded with at the minute. Even when you were in a work environment without a computer, we're missing that team meeting stuff. So all this is gone. So it could be a case of it's 10 o'clock, I'm taking my break at 11 o'clock, or it's 9 o'clock, I'm taking my break at 11. Set the alarm and put a reward at the end of it, that you're going to have your coffee, you're going to have your lunch, you're going to have something to eat, and whatever it is, you're going to go for a quick 30-minute walk. But rewarded behavior is repeated behavior. So set your schedules and put it out. Now, people working from home are sometimes struggling with the productivity. We're working away from our co-workers. We've only the remote online meetings that we're up to our tonsils in. The same videos, the same stuff. This risks the emotional disconnection and empathy, but it also encourages procrastination. So we need to build into cues to aid our transition into the out of work mode. This is where the clothing, the space, the environment, the schedule, the blocking, this is where we're setting up our subconscious for the differentiation between working and home life. So this is where, again, we're just going to touch on the space. Your bed and your couch are no-goes. I don't care if it's out your back, in your shed, in your front porch, even your car, but your bed and your couch are not workspaces. I don't care how comfortable they are. When you go to bed, you want your mind to know you're coming to an end of a day and it's time to relax. This is why we don't want, we're not even talking about the blue lights in our sleep here. We're talking about the differentiation between our work life and our home life. Now, we need a clear start-finish time and an end time, or start time and a finish time, and we need to put your walks or your exercise and your meals into that. That's going to set up a bit of a structure, and you need to pre-plan your day. We'll talk about this later on when we finish up. We need to know that if a meeting is going to happen on the out of office hours, well, what are you taking back? And I know a lot of people are going to say, my workplace, we can't do that. We're backs against the wall. It's this and it's this. Well, this is where we need to deal with the acceptance that there's always something. Before COVID last year, it was just you were working overtime because you just had to get this over the line. You had to get this deal done. And then after that, this will X. It doesn't happen. This starts with you internally and comes externally, and you working, performing better. And productivity is better than you working all of the time with procrastination. So we're trying to improve your performance here now. So In work, we must always deal with the flexibility and adaptation. Right now, this means overcoming difficult circumstances and getting the job done. We need to think of our homes. We used to think of our homes as these safe spaces, these peace zones away from the work. Now, this is what we really, really need to set up, and we need to put action plans to this, because boundaries have collapsed and it's our responsibility, because remember, it's our home and now it's our workplace, and we don't have the help and support of people. I genuinely know some people do, but a lot of us don't. And this is where we need a set routine in the morning, putting on our clothes, putting in our break times, and putting in our get up time. Know your get up time. There's lots going on. If we know that the kids are going to be busy at a certain time of the day, it mightn't be so apparent with the kids going back to school, but again, for the younger ones, we need to have a trade-offs. When can we unload them for an hour and get really productive? When could we get them minded? When can we get them distracted with a movie or with games, or when they're out the back? And we need to know when we can't do something to really identify when we can and cannot perform. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about is just a 4-point start plan. And this is, again, putting stuff into our awareness, accepting it, and then putting an action plan into it. Because I'm always big about the 3 A's. Because if we put 2 A's and then a P, we get an app. And the app is awareness, acceptance, and procrastination. Now, what we're trying to do is drop the procrastination and replace that P with an A of action, because more consistency is needed. So the 4-point start plan, and this slide and these points are going to be put into the Facebook group, Mindset Routine of Excellence, later on today. So what we need to do is we need to start with a digital diet. And I'm big on this in so many ways and forms. This means the phone. This means the phone has to go away from you. Now, when you sit down to your workspace, if you need your phone for phone calls, that's okay, but it needs to be put away from you and turned on so it's not on silent. But I would be genuinely thinking that in a lot of today's world, it's going to be a lot of video calls and it's scheduling and it's emails. We don't need to be checking our apps. We don't need to be checking the hundreds of WhatsApp groups that we even put into through COVID. We need to stop that, because that is the hand-to-mouth action, just like a cigarette. It's there, and it's releasing dopamine, these hits in our brain to give us happiness. So you're stressed and you see that someone has responded to something, you see someone has liked something, you see a friend has news. That's not for the workplace. That's not going to do anything for your performance. That's just going to distract you and encourage procrastination. Because like any hit of dopamine, we want more of it. But the more we use it, and the more we want it, the bigger the hit that we need and the more time we need to spend on it. So we need to start with a digital diet. Put the phone away and have set times when you check it. Even if everything is about your emails and your Zoom calls and everything else, you need to have a set time within, if it's an hourly thing or in a morning, evening, middle of the day thing and night time. When are you checking your emails? And when are you getting to your emails? You don't always have to respond straight away. So if you're working at 10 o'clock, you'd be like, on a half hour, every half hour I check the emails and I reply to 2 or 3 at a time. Or I'm starting now, it's 8 o'clock, I'm going to check my emails till 10 o'clock, I'll spend 30 minutes on my emails and then I'll go grab a coffee. But we need to have the digital diet. Everything that's digital we need to get away from us, and this is very important with a workspace as well. If it's noisy around the place, you need a TV on. If you open the window for fresh air and it's loud, get some earphones, noise reducing ones, or listen to music in the background that might have been playing in your workplace. Start your day number 2 with an AM ritual. What time are you getting up? What do you do when you get up? Do you shower, eat, brush your teeth, put on your clothes and get to the desk? Or in whatever order. It could be you're going to walk to the shop. It could be you're going to do a 20-minute walk around your park or around the road. It could be that you're going to get up 10 minutes earlier just to have a coffee by yourself for peacetime. And then if you think that you can't get up any earlier, you need to look at what you're doing the night before. Because even if you say, oh, I got to get the kids up and ready for school, there's no reason why we can't get up 15 minutes earlier by going to bed 30 minutes beforehand and cutting out all the laptop and TV in bed. So the start of the day is very important because we're trying to limit our decision fatigue. So we're trying to know what we're doing in the morning. This will calm us. Then we get to the office space, or we get to our work environment within the home. I know when I'm going eating. I know when I'm going getting a coffee. I know what I'm eating. I know when I'm getting coffee. I know when I'm finishing. I know what I'm doing later. We can't control what goes in here in between. But we've got lots of control when we put in our stopgaps. And it just takes pre-planning before you sit down and get to work. Start scheduling block times. And this is where I'm talking about. We have our We have our routine. We have a routine about the morning leading into the routines of when we're having our breaks and our coffees and finish time. The block time is when you're working on certain projects. This is the time I'm going to do each one. So I need to do this, or I need to do my emails. This is when I'm best for this. I need to ring my direct reports. I'm best at this. You schedule it all in, and these are block times. And put in block times when you're working on projects that no one can contact you. No one's going to miss an hour, but we're creatures of habit. If everyone's barking and everyone's jumping, that's the way we're going to stay. We don't have to deal with direct conflict to fix that. If you don't feel the communication lines are good enough, which in my experience through the summer are very poor in the majority of places, and this place that people are really struggling with is communication, is just leave it go 40 minutes and then reply. Everything always needs to be done ASAP. Everything. We can just slow it down. It's amazing that when we really realise that not everything is essential, we're better. And we don't have to say yes to everything. And then the fourth one is start some endurance training. And I don't mean that you have to start an Ironman. I just mean any form of endurance training. This is where it's going to work into our routine from our mind, our brain, and then we'll get to actions in body. And I mean just even dealing with walking. Just even in the evening, that just you go for whatever a long walk is for you. A long walk to some people can be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, whatever it is. But start doing some endurance training. For me, this starts in the morning. Finish showering, put it right down to cold, start with 3 seconds. Over time, can you keep building that up to 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, leading into 60 seconds into minutes? This refreshes you, but it's dealing with your endurance that you're getting focused. And then when you're dealing with your endurance training, there's so many different, you can go orienteering, you can go hiking, hill walking, anything to boost up your mental strength for dealing with the procrastination and getting your focus better at the workspace. So that's it for this week. Just with are you working from home? Or are you living at work? Now, I have plenty more topics to be going through over the next couple of weeks, but if you do have any topics or anything that you want me to write about or to talk about or to present, please just drop me a message and I'm more than happy to help out. Thanks very much for listening, and I'll see you later.